What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Another day in paradise. This is January the 7th, 2025. So I named the title of this stream Mulatto Children Abandoned in Kenya and England. So I'm going to go over a couple short clips and I'm also going to present a little bit of an article that was actually just recently released like a few months ago. But I want to talk about it now. I think it's warranted and it's congruent as well because it has to do with the abandonment. And there's other issues involved as well. We'll definitely talk about it. So let me get the ball rolling. Let me start this, share my screen here so you guys can see. The first clip I want to cover, as you can see the title, I think you guys can see that. Okay. It says Kenyan women accuse British Army soldiers of forced SA and abandoning kids. So pretty drastic and pretty extreme. And this was released 6 months ago. This it was uploaded. This news article. Okay, so let's check this out. Let me get my banner here, just for precautions, fair use, and let's tune in, check it out, and I'll provide some commentary on it.
She's just 17, but Marian lives alone in this single room house, a mixed race girl in rural Kenya where nobody looks like her.
Okay, and I'm going to stop repeatedly. I know some people don't like it, but I want to add emphasis on important parts. Now, just right away, I want to stop because the the journalist identified her as mixed race. You guys see that? And what I want to emphasize as well when I talk and pause is that this is going to be good, because I want people, specifically mulattoes, to use my channel in the catalog, all the videos that I have here, to basically debunk the common Afrocentric pro-black myth, of with them pushing the one drop rule, their one drop rule agenda to basically capture mulattoes and place them underneath blackness as a permanent subordinate class. And what they'll often do is say, well, you look black to the rest of the world. I talked about this on my last stream when this one, black guy was talking to two biracial or mulatto Amish women. He was telling her that the whole world's going to see you as black. And I pointed out, was like, I had to fact check him, say it's a bold faced lie. You go all over Africa, it doesn't matter to east or west, Kenya to Ghana, South Africa, throughout the whole continent. And that's a massive continent, second largest continent on the planet, right next to Asia. And like none of these people are going to call you black. And the journalists here, they're interviewing this woman in Kenya, and he identified her as mixed race. It's very crucial when we see that, we have to point it out. That's why I paused to take time to add some notes on that. And I want you guys to use the material on my channel as basically proof and evidence when these people, these Afrocentric one droppers who try to scare you, scare tactics, and tell you, well, the world's just going to see you as black. So you just have to submit. Basically, that's what it is. But whenever people identify you as mixed race or use this type of language, highlight it and, use this material. Let's continue on.
They actually call me poor white girl. I don't know why.
And I guess I paused too soon because she included by saying, well, the people there actually call her poor white girl. You see, they will basically one drop her into whiteness, which is the case all across Africa. They'll one drop her into whiteness. So the one drop rule works in reverse in Africa. I'm telling you guys, use this material to combat and to counter argue the Afrocentric one droppers who want to tell you the whole world's gonna see you as black. You're a little bit black. Like, no, I've been around you people long enough to know that's not the case. Okay, look what they're doing to Drake. If they can kick him out of blackness at the drop of a hat because they're jealous, it'll happen to any of yours. Okay.
White girl. I don't know why they call me poor white. Call me poor white.
Nobody looks like her.
They actually call me poor white girl. I don't know why they call me poor white girl. They always say, why are you here? Just look for a connection that you will go to your own people. You don't belong in here.
Okay. And so she's talking about experiencing exclusion and being outgrouped. in her own country that she was born to, but her father is of another tribe or an alien, an outsider, British. The whole emphasis here on this video clip I'm going to play is that you have white British soldiers who are stationed in Kenya. They have an agreement, England and Kenya, they have some type of agreement where these British soldiers, the army members, they can go to Kenya. They have their military camp there. They can do their training exercises or boot camps or whatever, whatnot. But while a lot of them are stationed there, they end up, in with some kind of extra activities with some of the local women there. And what's happening is they're basically becoming deadbeat dads. In a case, they are knocking up some of the women. And in some cases, as they highlight in this news story, is that there's, extreme cases where there's forced SA, right? And there's, like I said, repeating, there's a lot of other cases where they're just, counter or what I say, like an interaction with these women, just a general interaction, and they end up impregnating women and then they just abandon them. That's the case right here with this particular female who's talking. And the title here that they're outlining, it says children of British soldiers in Kenya are often shunned. So they're shunned. They're not only shunned by their father, who they probably never met, okay, deadbeat dad, okay, and then they're also shunned by the community, the environment they're in, where this female is saying that people call her poor white girl. And that's, we got to talk about that. We got to talk about it, because this type of stuff, people want to kind of, like I said, push it under the rug. They want to invalidate you. But see, now the mulattoes have a voice and we're spreading awareness. My goal is to connect with these mulattoes around the globe. And I'm already accomplishing that. So it's great. Let's continue on.
Marian's mother, Lydia Juma, was among hundreds of women who accused soldiers from the British Army Training Unit Kenya, Batuk, of rape. She was interviewed in this 2011 documentary.
Because in our tribe,
okay, and then this is another case, another scenario. They have multiple cases of this type of situation happening. And this is the extreme case they're highlighting. And they said this in a documentary in 2011. Okay. And even the image, I'll just add right here that, black is not dominant. Okay. When you have like a pure black, tribes member, maybe Maasai, I'm not exactly sure what tribe in Kenya this lady belongs to, but she's holding her daughter here, her child, clear distinction. Because I do the kind of side by sides with like, black or mulatto, something like that. And it's like, I don't even need to do it with this. I'm not going to, but just I'm pausing the screen, adding some commentary. And it's like, you just look at the side by side, like, oh, that's your mom. Well, clearly you don't look like your mom. And to the woman, your daughter doesn't look like you. So I get it's her flesh and blood, but your child is just as much white as they are black. Black is not dominant, as, expressed right here. Very clear to see. Let's continue on.
we can't report that thing. It's a big shame if you go and say that you have been raped.
Lydia Juma died 2 years after that interview, and Marian.
So it's a pretty sad, tragic case. Okay, the situation that happened here. What I'm doing when I'm like sharing, particularly this video, the next one, is I'm highlighting the deadbeat white British dads. Okay, and they've been doing this type of stuff in Africa, trying to bastardize Africa for centuries. With the transatlantic slave trade, they've done that not only in Kenya and they East Africa, but also in West Africa, in Ghana, in Nigeria, and other places. There's a long history of that. They have what they've called like pleasure palaces. If you guys have heard of that, basically modern day, we would probably say a whorehouse, but there's a big distinction, a big difference, because a lot of the pleasure palaces we know in the colonial era, those women were held against their will. They're basically enslaved to be sex workers. Okay. So there's a big difference. Okay. But those pleasure palaces serve the kind of colonial, it served the pilgrims, you want to say that, those, the European people, it served them. And so this stuff has been happening for years. Okay. The whole concept of a Euro-African is because of that in Gold Coast in Ghana, right? They have Portuguese fathers and African women, African moms, right? So, yeah, this is a pretty tragic case here, but let's continue on.
has never met her father. She has to fend for herself in a society that ostracizes her. You have not lost.
Okay. She has to fend for herself, okay, in a society that ostracizes her. But I just love and this is a woman. Like, I love how people, especially the Afrocentrics, try to frame it as if it's like, oh, they're so welcoming, we'll accept you. The whites are mean and racist, and because they trick a lot of these people in the United States. A lot of these mulattoes who are searching for their identity, or they haven't figured it out yet. It usually takes time. It takes time. A lot of these mulattoes, they haven't navigated society enough. So it often takes time. If they stumble across my content, they'll start to question some things. But this whole idea, like, she's in a majority black nation, but like, why are they shunning her? I thought they were the most loving, beautiful people on the planet. Like, they accept everybody. There's no such thing as race. We're all human. But they're shunning her. They're excluding her. Why? Well, and they're calling her a poor white girl, right? So just good old classic black racism, but we're not supposed to talk about it, right? Especially for a mulatto. We can only talk about the white racism, right?
Lost hope of finding your father someday?
No, I've never lost hope.
Mixed race children keep being born in the remote villages where the British Army trains in Kenya. Generic.
So this is another example, another family here. He's saying that the mixed race, again, that's the distinction. He's not saying the African children or the black children. He's saying the mixed race children are continuously being born in the remote villages where the British soldiers train. Okay.
Namoru says she was in a consensual relationship with a British soldier while she worked at their base, but she claims he has never supported her since she gave birth.
This is another, like I said, repeating another case of like a deadbeat dad. She worked in a base where one of the guys worked at, consensual relationship. They hooked up, but then he just bounced. Right. So they're trying to bastardize Kenya. Right.
I'm a woman with a white.
Again, I want to highlight, you do the side by side. Okay. Right. Like, everyone on the planet would see that that is not a black child. You do not have black child. You can only pull that shit in like a majority white nation, like maybe in Poland or Switzerland or Denmark or some crap like that. In the United States, no. They're like, well, if she walks around, she grows up, she walks around, says, I'm black, I'm a black woman. They're like, okay, well, which one? You're mixed, obviously. Which one of your parents, People, when I tried to play that crap, when I would tell people that I'm black, and they'd be like, well, what else? And what else? They would always be, because you can't fool people. They're not stupid. But they really try to trick these mulattoes into identifying as black. And see, I feel like they're more successful in these predominantly white nations. Okay, like the United States, or like I said, other places in Europe. In Africa, they can't play that game in none of these countries because all the people you're surrounded by, these blue, black, purple blacks, they're going to let you know you're not a part of the tribe, right? And the case right here, even you're going to see this, look at this side by side. It's like the black gene is not dominant. Okay. Even right here, this child's mom is going to identify her as being white. See, that's the one drop rule in reverse in Africa. They'll see the white in you and they'll immediately label you as white. Listen to what the mom has to say, because she's calling her mulatto child white. Interesting.
I'm a woman with a white child. It's not easy for my family, especially because a child is expensive.
She says, I'm a woman with a white child. Right?
Suffering for no good reason.
So you just want him to take responsibility for his daughter?
Yeah, nothing else. For him, I want him to take care of the education, health.
Have you ever received a cent from him since she was born?
I've never received any cent.
Generic.
So deadbeat dad. Deadbeat dads going into Kenya and bastardizing the women there. Right? And this is stuff that happens. So it's like I talk about, Bantus bastardizing other groups, which is this is what male groups do. to compete against other males is they typically will target the women or bastardize them. And, this is what we're seeing. So I can talk about that when we see the Bantus like Umar Johnson and all his little FBA buddies and how they do that. But at the same time, we see white males in positions of authority who have been doing that in Africa for centuries, as I said, and even today they're doing it now. But now it's gotten to a point where there have some, the press, the CNN, Live, the journalism, and then now they have like attorneys in Kenya that are working to try to petition some of the courts in the UK to give these the children like citizenship or rights, etc., or to help them with funding to support the family. Because the dads, the soldiers go there and bastardize the women, and then they just bounce, and then like you're sticking them with the bill, and people are calling it out. So let's continue on with this.
Africa is jobless and says she has unsuccessfully tried to petition local authorities and the British Army to find her ex-boyfriend. The British High Commission told CNN it cooperates with local child support authorities in paternity claims. But the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights says the UK government has made no effort to hold soldiers accountable in such cases.
These children really deserve British citizenship. They're British kids. Their fathers were British.
So
it's a tricky, I don't want to say, it's kind of tricky to say that because they were born in Kenya. Their fathers are British citizens, but are they granted British citizenship just if their dad's British? I'm not exactly sure. I know that with Italians, if your dad's Italian and like an Italian national born in Italy, and then you, the child, you are granted an Italian passport. So a form of kind of like citizenship. There was a guy, I did a response or reaction video to him a year ago, and he was a mixed guy. And his father was Italian, and he was from Kenya as well. He lives in London now, but he was talking about how he never met his dad till he was older. Then he met his dad, and yeah, he was able to get a passport and stuff like that. So it's interesting, but different countries have different laws, and obviously how that works out. I don't exactly know in the UK that just because your dad, if British territory on the base or something like that happened, because I know in the US, United States, based on our laws, if it's United States territory that you're born on, then you are granted citizenship. So if it's a military base or etc., US territory, right? Because I believe Kobe Bryant, if I'm not mistaken, was born in Italy, but on a military base. And I think that's why he's was a United States citizen. So let's continue on.
The British government is just not interested in resolving these cases.
We don't think they are interested. We call it BBBB, British boys behaving badly.
The UK pays Kenya about $400,000 a year to allow up to 10,000 British soldiers to train in the country.
You guys think that's a fair trade-off? 400,000, not even $1 million, to train 10,000 soldiers. They're going to pay. Well, it's just because they supply all the equipment, the all that stuff. They just basically want to use the land, to borrow the land. They're going to pay the Kenyan government 400,000. Crazy. With all the money that they have, the British Empire, they're just basically giving you a couple shillings, couple pennies. Crazy. But, what can they bargain with? That's the thing. They've kind of turned, in many cases, Kenya, the British, into kind of a tourist, hub. That, like, the whole infrastructure within tourism, I'm sure, the local people makes their money and stuff, but that serves basically kind of a white clientele base. The whole, Serengeti desert safaris and all that stuff. And yeah, they kind of control that whole tourism industry, right? I don't have all the exact details into that, but it's kind of obvious as an outsider looking in, observing it, how they, designated that. So whatever, side subject, interesting. Let's continue on.
Kenya renewed the 5-year deal in 2021, despite opposition from some local groups, lawmakers, and human rights defenders.
We have also had cases where these women and people who have reported have been intimidated So there is a conspiracy to make sure that justice does not happen for these women.
Okay, so we can look at the woman's title is a Commissioner, Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. Definitely. So their advocacy efforts are ramping up for sure because they see an issue.
Allegations of rape and other crimes, including murder, by British soldiers in Kenya date back to the 1950s. These elderly women accused Batuk officers of rape in the 70s and 80s in a landmark case in London over 20 years ago. Ntoye Len Kanan says she was one of them.
I was going to fetch water when I was ambushed by a group of British soldiers who were hiding in the grass near the river. One of them grabbed me and raped me.
In 2007,
and then see, this is another extreme case of the tragic misconduct, right?
Britain's Ministry of Defense dismissed over 2,000 claims of rape from mostly Maasai and Samburu women, saying,
right, Maasai, so that's one of their more prominent tribes there. And yeah, so he said over 2,187 claims. They dismissed it, just threw it away, said, oh, it didn't really happen. So that's like the level of subjugation is extreme. Okay. Crazy. Yeah. And like I said, with the whole tourism, because that's part of their package they sell to the public to come over to the, go on a safari, then you can meet the tribes. And then typically they send them, they have the Maasai tribe there. Right. That's the one they kind of prop up. And yeah, they might give them some opportunities in the work and stuff like that. But there's also a ton of exploitation that happens that people don't talk about. That's part of it. You see that number, 2,187 misconduct of SA and other type of, intimidation, stuff like that. Those are the negative kind of residuals of them setting up their enterprise there to make a buck. And, people get kind of screwed out of the whole ordeal. Let's continue on.
Quote, there was no reliable evidence to support any single allegation. The government in Nairobi lost the case files without explanation. A Royal Military Police investigation concluded that most of the Kenyan evidence appeared to have been fabricated. One Kenyan official called it a cover-up. They did not conduct DNA tests on any of the 69 mixed-race children alleged to have been born as a result of rape by British soldiers.
And again, these numbers, these stats are something that we need to compile as well for ourselves here in the States. When we look at crimes that are committed against mulattoes, this is like they have right here. They said right here, 69 mixed race children.
DNA tests on any of the 69 mixed race children.
They didn't conduct any DNA tests for the 69 mixed race children. Okay. But they're highlighting the fact there's mulatto because they're talking about Anglo-British and then African Kenyans. So they use mixed race because it's more, innocuous. We get that. But over here, this is mulatto vanguard. So we say mulatto. And yeah, but we need those stats. Like what I'm saying is we need not those stats. I want to rephrase that. We need stats of our own that highlight us and where we are in societies, the discrepancies, and how we need to be able to calculate data. We need to be in that position as soon as possible, to be honest with you. It's going to be upon us to do that. Don't expect anybody else in the public who's not you exactly to do that for you. No, they're just going to basically paint you as black. In the United States, they'll try to do that to boost up their numbers. Okay. In some cases, there's mulattoes if they can quote unquote pass and they, identify as that, then they'll just be in that the white category. But I would say the latter is what happens more so than not. They'll forcefully try to maneuver you to just check black, right? Or they'll falsify documents. They won't even have an option for you. So that has to be challenged as well, because we need to be able to collect this data and say, no, this is mulatto, this is mixed race, this is not a black person. So we got to make sure they get it right. Let's continue on.
Children alleged to have been born as a result of rape by British soldiers. Lawyer Kelvin Kubai is working to reintroduce the case in Kenyan courts. 17-year-old Marian will be the lead plaintiff, taking up a fight her mother didn't win in her lifetime.
I'm pretty sure this is the Maasai. Typically you'll see a lot of red, and yeah, this is one of their more, prominent tribes in Kenya that gets a lot of the public attention and shine. And like I said, they kind of position, like when the tourists go to Kenya, this is the tribe they typically are interact with, who, because they have, I guess they have tribal rights in that land, where they have some agreements with the British government. And as far as in the tourist areas or Serengeti or Tanzania in Kenya kind of border, to where they kind of oversee a lot of the, not only hunting, but how I'd say, like as tour guides and safari guides and stuff like that. Yeah. So this is looks like the Maasai to me.
It is traumatic and it's psychologically disturbing to people like Marion and many others who continue to see the British training amidst them with all these unresolved trauma and historical injustices.
Larry Medowo, CNN, Nanyuki.
Yeah. And so they're petitioning, they're going through the steps, the legal steps. You got a guy suit and tie, and they have major media coverage, CNN. Then, of course, now they have the independent media coverage, the Mulatto Vanguard. So they're definitely getting their press. People are being made aware of this, the circumstances and situation there. So interesting stuff. I'm going to share that clip with you guys. And so you guys have access to that. And of course, you guys can do your part as well to spread awareness and just to basically be informed. And I got one more kind of short clip, right? Also, what I wanted to add on that was that I first talked about how like even in Africa, where the blacks there will one drop you into whiteness, and they'll outgroup you, right? They'll shun you, there's stigma there. So it basically dispels the whole myth that people tell you, is that, oh, black people are so welcoming, race isn't real, and we're the good guys and all this stuff, right? We're just victims of white people and all this, what they try to say. So it dispels that whole myth when you see mulattoes and mixed race people born in majority black countries, majority black tribes, majority black communities. They're getting like outgrouped and shunned and stigmatized. We're like, what the hell? It can't just be this mixed guy or that mixed guy or this mixed girl, blah, blah, blah. Because that's how they try to do it here in America. They try to basically, United States, they try to single you out in a way, or also they try to make it seem like it's an isolated issue. Oh, it's just you, Mulatto Vanguard. You're just a loser in your family. You couldn't get along with the blacks, and you tried to fit in with the blacks and you couldn't fit in. Like, they try to position it like that with all you guys. It's really laughable, and that whole argument falls, because it's like there's too many of us now who are speaking up. It can't be all of us that somehow we just couldn't fit in or something. Like, no. We're addressing the problems that nobody wants to talk about, but we will talk about it here. So that was the first point. The second point, like I said, was obviously use my channel, the videos here, as evidence, as proof, basically as kind of an open video catalog to dispel the Afrocentric one droppers and their myths, right? Because we see the agenda, we see how they want to bury you underneath blackness to serve them. Okay. Number three, probably one of the more crucial elements that I want to go over, because the other two I just mentioned, we get that, we know that. If you're over here, you're a subscriber, a follower, you've been listening to me for a minute, you already know what time it is. The mulattoes are going to do our own shit over here. We're not asking permission from Bantus. We're doing what we want over here. It's full autonomy and sovereignty. So the first two you should already know. You've been listening to me for a minute. The last point I want to make before I jump to the next clip is that the white deadbeats, okay, these British soldiers, a lot of them were degenerate, especially the criminal savages, the British soldiers who were SAing these vulnerable Kenyan women in that environment, right? And they're not being brought to court or justice. The British is just kind of, the government's just dismissing the cases, right? Saying there's not enough evidence, okay? So the thing is, what I want to point out about that is that the wingnats, they never mention that when they talk about race mixing. You notice that? You notice all the white boy incels over on X, all the white boys crying all day because they see their precious Aryan goddess, busting it wide open for some dark-skinned black, having mixed kids. See, they cry about that, but they're quiet as church mice when one of their fellow British countrymen or one of their fellow Anglos go into a black land and impregnate a black woman and have a mixed kid, and then they bounce. They bastardize a group of people. They never mention that. You notice that, guys? When they cry about race mixing, see, they're only against race mixing, these wingnut, Aryan nationalists, when it's white women who are with black males or Arabic males in many cases. But specifically when they see it's a white female with a black male, then they whine and cry. Then they're against race mixing. Okay. But when it's a white British soldier with a black female, okay, they're quiet. They say nothing about it. You guys notice that? Notice that, right? The biases, right? Because they always cry about me and the biases, basically trying to silence me and my voice, dissuade me. You got an echo chamber, and all of you people got echo chambers. Well, the mulattoes got one now too. So fuck off, deal with it, or cry and continue to promote me. You take your pick. But I love that whole echo chamber argument. You got an echo chamber. You're not gonna let me comment. I don't want you dusting up my motherfucking chat with your BS. You can go take it somewhere else. Like, you have a right to be over here or something. That's what I get a kick out of her. You're biased. Yeah, okay. And you're the people who always push that claim about bias reporting, and you come to find out they're some of the most biased people. So I can't take a lot of you hoes seriously, to be honest with you. Let me jump into this next clip, guys. Super short one as well. Then I'll kind of get into the article and yeah, go from there. Let me check out some comments first. Someone, Brian Mack says mulatto pride. Blaxican guy says these people are complete and utter degenerates. Yeah. You put Chief Inspector puts yo, what's up? And you put here, thank FK, we have got something of our own now. So let me zoom in, or let me share my screen, I should say. Let me get into this right now. Appreciate you guys being here. This is it Monday or it's Tuesday? I do my streams on the weekend. Weekdays, I'm typically, my hands are tied, but I just wanted to hop up here, give you guys some content. Got a couple more lives planned out this week, and a couple more video uploads as well. I plan to stay active for sure. That's a goal of mine this year. And yeah, provide you guys with content. So you guys like what you guys are hearing and seeing, please hit the like button, share the stream, let people know. I appreciate your guys' support. So yeah, let me zoom this in. Gonna play this one. This is another case of the title is Left Behind in Kenya. Children of British soldiers struggle to find their identity. Interesting stuff. Let's check it out.
Louis Gitonga is a product of a week-long relationship between his mother and her British lover, who was a soldier attached to the British Army Training Unit in Kenya, Batuk. 24 years later, Gitonga cuts a figure of a disenfranchised young man.
I look different from the others. Babangu ni mweusi mwenye amenilaze. So hiyo identity crisis imetuma paka niingilie mambo na matei.
Says raised me as black, so I have identity crisis that has driven me to alcoholism. That's a tragic case. That's a sad case. Yeah. Drug use based off, you have psychiatric needs. You need to fulfill your psychiatric needs. Okay. And it's part of that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like the belonging. Human beings are social creatures, and you need your tribe. You need your tribe. And we see that. I see that with the mulattoes in the United States, and I'm just here filling a void. You need your tribe, and people want you to be tribeless and raceless to maneuver you into a position of servitude, which is perpetual servitude. I'm like, fuck that. I challenge. I just never will accept that. Never. And we see in some other places where people are, suffering that, and they might not have the tools around them to kind of jump on the internet and connect with people, start that way, and then, be your own self-advocate, find ways to build with people, share the similar commonality, and find your tribe. Let's continue on.
Ni mapombe Ningetaka tu kujua my little father who he is. Yeah, my little father. Na mbona aliniacha kwa hii shida yote?
This, an identity crisis 68-year-old David Mwangi Macharia knows all too well.
Hapa Kenya huniita British. Na wakati wanaponiita British.
So again, it's another case. These are two gentlemen now, but they're both mulattoes, right? Even looking at him, like I say, black's not dominant. When I saw these clips, I was kind of like, oh, I want to kind of plug that in there, let people know, like, the black is not dominant. You look at these people, they stand out in Africa, okay? Even the United States, like I'm saying, they can only pull that one drop rule, that makes you black bullshit in like a majority white nation, okay? They don't do that in Latin America. You notice that? They have different categories, mulatto, mestizo, right? They only pull that one drop rule crap. Like in the United States, it's fading away. People are rejecting it. I see mulattoes like openly rejected, even on TikTok. Like it's just, give it a few more years. Give it a few more years. It's just that one drop rule shit is going to be just in the history books. And I don't want to hear anybody else bring it up again. According to the white man, his one drop rule, we're like, damn, you take this mulatto, you put him in Africa surrounded by black people. They're telling him he's not one of them. So who the hell's the confused one? They're trying to trick you. They're trying to rob you of your own identity. But like I say right here, look at it. The guy says here, son of a British father, Kenyan mother, mulatto. Okay. And it says right here in Kenya, I'm often nicknamed British. They're calling him British. Remember the other video I just did, the clip when the lady said that she identified her own daughter, who's mulatto, she identified her as white. And then the other mulatto was saying people were calling her dirty white girl because she has a white British father, right? So in that country, they're being ostracized and outgrouped and stigmatized. But the key thing is they're not being identified as black. Okay. That's the key thing.
Mimi nashindwa niko dunia gani? Kwa sababu hajui jina yangu, ninaitwa David Mwangi Macharia. Haya, UK naye hawanijui kwa sababu hawajui uraia wangu.
A Kenyan lawyer in collaboration with the British.
This is the same lawyer, right? And the video they have there is the video I just played before. I pause the screen. It's like they have a GoFundMe account. It's probably for their legal funds, for their to petition for the British government to take some responsibility for what they've done, bastardizing their group there, right? Because it's easy. You could jump on social media, complain about some Pookie thug, but I always look at it, well, if these women spread their legs for little Pookie and Ray Ray and they had bastard kids, like to me, especially if you're a mulatto and you just want to fit in with blacks and you spread your legs to the darkest man you can get to try to fit into their community, and now he left your dumb ass and you're a baby mama, like, I'm going to laugh at you. Okay. Clip it, screen record it, make it into a soundbite. I will laugh at you. Like, if you were that desperate to like want acceptance from them and to prove to them you're a part of their group and now you're a single mom, you're a baby mama, the joke's on you, ho. Don't ask me for sympathy. Okay. Because you're going to try to clown me. You're light skinned and you weak and sassy. I want the dark skinned guy. And now you're a baby mama. You deserve all the LOLs you're going to get. Okay. So, yeah.
British firm are on a mission to take a number of such children to Britain to confront authorities over hundreds of such cases reported over the years.
What we are bringing in the UK court is not issues of rape, is issues of these children who happen to be prisoners of an identity they did not choose for themselves.
Saying prisoner of an identity they didn't choose for themselves. Maybe because I think the infrastructure in the UK is progressive in a lot of ways, because they allow mulattoes to identify as mulatto and all their government documentation. They have data collection. And when I'm done, this clip is going to be done in about a minute, and I'm going to jump into an article that will showcase that even in the United States, where there's certain states where you could just check, biracial, multiracial, two or more races. I'm from California, so for sure in California, that the multiracial stuff is there. You even have organizations like multiracials of Southern California and stuff like that. So the whole multiracial discussion in California is for sure there in some other progressive states. But if you go to like red Republican states, like primarily in the South, some of these places, oh no, like they are the most anti mulatto places. They want to bury your ass, you know. So it's interesting. Yeah, so but yeah, the UK, they I think what I'm saying is I think that's why they're definitely petitioning for the UK to either do something about it, provide funding or citizenship. They want to grant dual citizenship to those mixed race children. They want them to be able to go to school in the UK and get educated, and also they'll be around other mulattoes. I can say that. That's a good thing. So
Britain and Kenya renewed their long-standing multi-million-dollar defense cooperation agreement, which allows 10,000 British forces to train in Kenya for 8 weeks every year. Civil society groups and Kenyan mothers involved have long said British authorities have been little or no help.
Kitambo tulikuwa tunaongea, nikaona hana usaidizi wote, nikasema ninyamaze tu, alafu ningoje nifuatilie kwa sheria.
again, guys, this woman, this is her daughter. Yeah, yeah. Okay. One's black, one is not. Okay. And of course, she knows it. She called her own daughter white. And all the rest of the people in their village or tribe, they're not going to look at her as being the same as them. Okay. But the thing is, this mother, you know, she's a good mom, I would say, because I have to say, because she's there supporting her daughter. Where the hell's the dad at? The white boy, the deadbeat white boy, the soldier, right? For the British Army, right? And they'll complain about the blacks and they're against race mixing. And then you turn around, they're fucking race mixing. I laugh because these wing gnats are so full of shit. I see all over on X in their little spaces, like, because all these guys, they want to bastardize these Asians, get these Asian women in the Philippines and Japan. The white boys love race mixing. They just don't like it when the white woman exercises that same right and privilege. Fucking hypocrites. All right, let's check it out.
Ama ukienda kwa ofisi zao za Batuk unaambiwa komanda huko ni Mscottish na baba mtoto ni Mscottish, huwezi sikizwa. Ama hata sometimes unanyima kuingia kwa gate.
A British High Commission spokesperson, in a statement to the Associated Press, said both the consulate and the British Army training mission in Kenya cooperate fully with local child support authorities.
Yep, local child support authorities, yeah. Make sure you get something out of the whole ordeal. They have done you a disservice. They've basically made you more in debt because now you have child, you know, rearing and other situations. Yeah, it's a complicated situation. I wanted to bring light to that because that was a fairly new article. The other one I shared with you was like 4 months ago. This one was 1 month ago. Let me share so you guys can see the timestamp. And of course, I will, or the date of upload, I should say. Okay. It says right here, 1 month ago. Okay. And I'll share that, like I said, this stuff with you guys in the description box. So you guys have access to that. Oh, I can share it right now in the chat. I see about 21 of you people engaged. Got some of my haters watching because they know they're hoes and they watch everything I do. You know, you haters make me famous too. So there's the video clip for you guys there if you guys want to access that, but I'll share it. And yeah, let me check out some comments here before I move on to the article, because the article is going to kind of tie things together as well. So I do want to bring it to that article because they have some solutions there. Let's check this out. It says, these testimonies indicate that while we are descended from Europe and Africa, neither Europe nor Africa are our motherland. We couldn't migrate there and assimilate without issue. Exactly. That's what we come to find out. You know, these are the groups, this is our heritage. We come from both places, but it's not our motherland. It's not ours. These are questions. I like that. I like your comment there. These are questions we have to all internally ask ourselves and find out, you know, how do we get here, why that is, but what are some solutions? What can we do to create our own motherland that serves us? Or simply put it, everywhere is basically going to be our motherland given time if we act accordingly. And trust me, people, forces are doing everything they can to prevent that. And no, the Bantus don't have all this influence and power. They are being weaponized by Anglos against mulattoes. This is what we see. Sicily would technically be the best destination. There are parts of Europe as well, and you can't expect to build the mulatto utopia because that would never work. It would never work. Sound like a doubter. You guaranteed you're pro black just off that statement. Yeah, which is fine. A lot of you people are. Black people will never let mulattoes build separately. Yeah, I know you got them in the chat. I'm mulatto like you, but I'm sucking blacks off, and you know, you mulattoes, you'll never be able to work with you. Yeah, I know. They're all over the damn place, all over. They find my stuff. It's hilarious. Says, have you ever noticed how African biracials never look white passing? They never look black passing. That's the beautiful thing. I just saw I had a whole sample right there. Young and old, men and women, male and female, they don't look like blacks. You look at them side by side next to their parent, you're like, shit, two different people. We mulattoes and MGM are literally American living fossils. You are the past and the future. You know, what they've done successfully in the United States with the imposition of the one drop rule is bury all of your history into blackness, even the Creoles. I mean, you have some Creoles who are basically trying to highlight their uniqueness, their identity, cultural roots, like Creole Lady Marmalade has a channel on YouTube. She does a good job at putting a spotlight on kind of Creole identity. But from what I see, a lot of other like Creole people is they've kind of just been absorbed by blackness, which most of the mulattoes have as well. This is a fairly new consciousness we see where people are asserting themselves as, well, we're uniquely different, independent from the black culture, black community, black body politic. We're a unique case. And someone like me, I have no, like, I have to embrace this. I can't live with myself pretending to be something I'm not. And you see a lot of mulattoes try to just pretend they're just a black person. And, and a lot of them, it's not working out for them. Some of them, a lot of them, they are, especially if they're these kind of like celebrities, right? Like Alicia Keys or something, right? Works out for them. They can just market their art, their music to a majority black audience, and they buy it. Blacks will buy it and sell it. Like even the rapper Lotto, right? With her white mama, she had the whole damn name Mulatto, and she can still just kind of pretend to be a part of the black group and just sell her music to them, and they'll buy it. So it works out for those types. But yeah, appreciate you being here. And you're in South Africa, so you know right away that in South Africa there is a whole delineation of colored people who are multiracial versus black or Bantu or the Boer or Anglo, etc. So yeah. And that's what I was telling my audience is that in Africa, they will one drop you into whiteness, as we saw in Kenya. But I personally, firsthand knowledge, experienced that in Ghana, West Africa, where they will literally see you like, you white man, oh, brew me, you know? But it's like, because you can't listen to if you're a mulatto American, you really cannot take the Afrocentric pro wax or the North American Bantu seriously when they tell you, well, the whole world's going to see you as black and the one drop rule and all. You can't take them seriously. In today, 2025, you have to laugh at them because they're lying. They're trying to trick you and manipulate you to serve them, to be a minority amongst them, instead of embracing the fact that you're different than them. You're not the same, right? So the one drop rule works in reverse in Africa. Let me check out some more comments. You got, they won't even let Beyonce sing her song Creole. Too much backlash. Leave us alone. I heard something about that. I'm not a Beyonce fan. I don't listen to her music. Clearly, you could tell my personality type. But I heard something about that. I know a lot of the blacks were cheering on Beyonce because she did like a country album. And they want to cheer on the fact that a lot of whites are kind of bothered or they don't accept Beyonce as a country singer or something like that. I think Beyonce's from Houston, Texas, so she can be like a country girl. She's probably listening to that stuff her whole life. But I think, yeah, Beyonce's mom is Creole, so that's obviously passed down to her, part of her heritage. And yeah, she has a song called Creole, and you're right, they're gonna be bothered by that because it's delineating, because they want to be able to exclude you and outgroup you. They don't want you to do that to them. then they're like insulted. Like with the rapper Mulatto, they want her to change her name, right? That's when the whole mulatto thing is so important to me because it highlights a difference, right? And they're against that. They want you to be underneath them. This is why they want you to steer away from any type of language where there's a high level of specificity. This is why the same people who tell you they don't like the word mulatto, why don't you just call yourself mixed or biracial? Because the whole thing is the former slaves, what the first thing they're going to do is say, well, we're all mixed, nobody's pure. Race is just fake. It's just a social construct. All African Americans got some European DNA. This is what they all say. That's their argument. It's already fixed in. They're going to tell you that to try to maneuver you back in to be underneath them to serve them. Like, this is why when you say mulatto, that's a real recognized racial category that's always been independent from black around the globe. So this is why they're against the word. Okay. It's not because of the donkey shit. You're calling yourself a donkey. Yeah, and those are the same people who say that, who are calling themselves dogs and bitches and hoes, They call themselves, I always laugh about that. They call themselves animals. They refer to themselves as dogs and bitches and stuff and niggas, but that's perfectly fine to them, if you deal with them in their community. But then they look to you, you're calling yourself a donkey. I don't give a damn, people. You're not one of me. I'm sorry to put it like that, guys. It might seem like kind of standoffish, but I just laugh. I get a kick out of it. It's like, how dare you try to tell me what word I should and shouldn't use when a lot of them are the most vulgar people on the planet. Listen to the hip hop stuff, calling themselves animals, dogs and bees and all this. But then they look at you and say, you're calling yourself a donkey, right? I'm like, I didn't ask for your opinion, boy. I don't care what you say. I'm just letting you know. Let me get through some of these comments. You put, I used to surround myself with Bantus until they started to become aggressive. Took a white woman to make me realize I'm different. Interesting. I love the Creoles. They fascinate me. I see so many parallels between them and the colors. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see that many Creoles. I'd like to see more. Yeah. Their rejection is our protection. Yeah. Once you realize that was the epiphany moment, made me wake up. And it's never good enough. The more you do, the more they're going to use and take, and the more they're going to expect. It's never enough, right? And remember, they don't have to do anything. Like, they defend all the scum and predators and criminals in their community. They'll try to turn it around and flip it and say it's a white supremacist attack, like with a Bill Cosby type of guy. They'll defend Bill Cosby. They'll defend R. Kelly. They'll defend P. Diddy. They'll basically try to flip it and say the white supremacists are trying to destroy this man's legacy. Like, they'll defend those guys, right? Right. But then with you, little you, like, they'll just, yeah. So you should know the game by now. Those of you who are my audience, core audience supporters, not the trolls and haters, because they're still fans, but they're trolls and haters. But those of you who are supporters, my audience, you should already know what the deal is by now. Let's see, they trip me out when they see me talking with a group of whites and they're sitting on the outside of the circle looking at me like dog with a tail between their legs. Yeah. The southern part of Africa is in a better position because mixed people already have an established category. Can't say the same about the rest of the continent. Yeah, exactly. And these are most of the places there, the states are like developing nations, right? So they just basically got to get basic infrastructure in place, like roads and, sanitation, garbage disposable, like food production. Like, they got to work on the basic human essentials first before they go into this whole kind of, other like multiracial category stuff. That's like extra stuff. They got to get the core essentials first, less power blackouts and clean water, effective, transportation, all that stuff. And that's more important. And they're developing nations, so they have to focus on that. In the future, that stuff will come as well, especially with the Blasians, the rise of Blasians, and even in Kenya and other parts of Africa, where these groups, these other multiracial groups, are going to be popping up more. And yeah, they're not going to have a choice. They're going to have to represent themselves. That's pretty much, from my analysis, what's occurred with colored people. I know the Afrocentrics, they're going to try to frame it that colored people were a colonial creation and stuff like that. They do that. That's the propaganda the black supremacists push on multiracial people that they want to maneuver to be their subordinates. They push propaganda against us. They do that. I see that. The Bantus do that to colored people in South Africa. The North American Bantus do that to the mulattoes in America. They say that we're a buffer class and the white man puts us in positions of power to keep black people down. The Chancellor Williams, the destruction of wax civilization, they were doing that in Kemet in Africa, and that's the history. The black supremacists push all kinds of racist propaganda against us. So let's continue on. Says sharing, interacting with mulatto Dominicans, Brazilians, etc., like you've been doing, will help us build our culture. The Japanese form their culture by borrowing from the older Chinese culture. Excellent point. Yeah, the Japanese have their whole like calligraphy system. They have the kanji, which they took from the Chinese, an older writing calligraphy system. And the Japanese, they have their hiragana and katakana as well. But yeah, they took the kanji from the Chinese. Right, and that's an important part of their culture. Their whole literary and calligraphy system, it was adopted from Chinese. And look at how successful the Japanese are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can take in these influences and inspiration from other groups. It makes sense to network and build and connect with other people. It will inspire us, but also they will get inspired by us. If it can be a fair trade, we have to establish this kind of mutual trade-off. Where for me, I'm getting something because I'm making new friends. To me, it's about friendship. It's always been about friendship and community, meeting people and doing this type of content, which I've been successful at thus far. With all the haters and trolls and all the other stuff that comes along with it, like I've accomplished everything I sought out to do. And so there's only positives that's going to happen when you connect with other people who are similar to you. They might nationalistically, they're if you look at it with the kind of national borders, yeah, they're part of another land, another culture, etc. But we can still share and benefit each other. We just have to make sure we get something out of it and they get something out of it. We're both happy. It makes the world a better place. Would you guys agree? Mixed people in the rest of African continent are not as many as in Southern Africa, and some African countries they are ostracized, stigmatized. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I think places like in West Africa that would occur for sure. But there is a history of mixed race people there. But yeah, I prefer to see the real Creoles. There's so many fake ones. It's not even funny. Yeah, you got people that are blacker than Wesley Snipes saying that they're Creole because their great, 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 great grandmommy's uncle's cousin's next door neighbor was 2% Creole. So now they're trying to claim it. It's very bad. It's very insane and insulting. Like that's the whole argument where it's like a lot of these people are trying to say, well, we're all mixed. Back in the plantation days, the average African American has, they'll just make up random numbers. They'll say 20% or they'll say 15% or something. They make up numbers. Okay, you're still we're not the same. Like you can debate it all you want, your little numbers, your little DNA, but yeah, it's not the same. But yeah, I see that with a lot of the Creole. And like I said, when you see real ones, like a Creole Lady Marmalade, who's a representative, a real one, I like those ones. But you got these fake ones. It's just like, oh man, it's so cringe. Like they want to latch on to any identity to run away from the fact of their true history that they were enslaved. Okay. I had that black anger all the while the Bantus would try to fight me for no reason. I was working as a security guard. I had a chip on my shoulder. Women yelled at me, "You're literally white." Yeah. Yeah. It's good that you got out of that place. You just got to get the hell out of that place and love who you are and be around people who are decent. We got to get the hell away from them. Yeah. That was the thing for me with sanity. I was like, I got to get the hell away from them. Got to get away from them. I want a black and Iberian group. Interesting. Let me check out this last comment before I move on to the article. You said I heard that Beyonce is also Creole. Yeah, I believe so. Her mom is Creole, I believe. That's what the people were saying. Like I said, I'm not really a Beyonce fan. I don't know really too much or anything about her, except that she has a song where she's talking about to the left, I think it's called Irreplaceable. She does like female empowerment music. So, it's just female empowerment music. She has this like a famous mantra. She's like, all the single ladies, and she's like cheering on the single ladies, but she's married to Jay-Z, she's married to him, but her audience is like the single ladies. So it's the grift is pretty interesting. What these recording artists, how they're able to capture the public and fool them. Let me check out this article right here. So the thumbnail on this live stream is from this article right here. This article was wrote 3 months ago. It says Friday 18th, October 2024. So everything I'm sharing to you guys right now is very relevant. It's very recent and new. This stuff basically came across my desk and I was like, oh, this is good material. I can jump up here and talk about it. Now, I'm not going to read this whole article for you guys. Okay. I don't want to bore you guys. Like I said, I appreciate your guys' time. I will put timestamps in this live stream. But I will post this article in the description box and I can actually share it in the chat right now since I'm talking about it. And so you guys have access to this, but I do want to talk about some stuff in this article and kind of gloss over some things. Since I'm here, why not? And yeah, so this article is from The Guardian. It says how Britain's brown babies were hidden away, the secret history of the first mixed race orphanage. So this is in the UK. They actually had a mixed race orphanage, and you could tell by the picture, the photograph, black and white. So this was like several decades ago. I think it's in the 1950s. This is post World War II. It's going to talk about African American GIs who, went to England, were stationed there, and they slept with the white English women in many cases, and they left behind mixed race kids. Okay, bastardizing, okay, the white population. But see, the white supremacists and wingnats will see something like this, and this is good propaganda for them. See, they're going to talk about this all day. They love this. They're going to see that this, right? But when it's the reverse, like I just covered, when it's these degenerate white British soldiers taking advantage of Kenyan women or just being, bastardizing the Kenyan women, they're silent. They're silenced church mice. That's why you cannot take them seriously, because they're not presenting both sides of the story. Now, the argument I kind of thought about was, okay, well, this is what happened first. What happened first was with the colonial projects in West Africa, okay, with the British in Nigeria and the Portuguese and French, etc. So some people could say that this occurred after World War II. And then what's currently happening now in Kenya, they can make the claim or the argument that, well, they're just kind of paying them back for what they did to Britain by, making all these mixed race kids. And so now the British soldiers are trying to return the favor. Now, I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing it out there that it's an argument that someone can make. That's not what I think that's like plausible. I'm just throwing it out there so you guys can think. As bizarre as it, might sound, but there's people who can make that argument that it's kind of like a quote unquote payback scenario. But this is like, say, this is like after World War II. Okay. And it says, they cared for us. They loved us all. British born children of African American servicemen in the grounds of the Hollingcote House, 1948. And the Hollingcote House was the first mixed race orphanage that housed these the children, because the African American black GI servicemen abandoned the kids, and then the white women at that time in England who had these kids, they didn't want to navigate society with their mulatto child. They thought there's too much stigma, too much social pressure, so they gave the children up for adoption. And a lot of the children ended up in this orphanage. Interesting history. Like I said, I didn't even know about this till like a week or so ago. A lot of people don't talk about it. So here we are. Okay, it wants me to register for something. No, not going to register. I just want to read the article. And like I said, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Going to get to some of the interesting parts. But firstly, again, history of mixed race orphanage. And again, brown babies, not black. These are mulattoes. Okay. These are brown people. you know, I don't go by the whole color thing, because the mulatto, the contrast, we can be, more of a paler skin or yellow or brown, or in, some cases dark brown. So the whole key thing is the mulatto, because it's the heritage component, the configuration of heritage. Mulatto encompasses perfectly. My argument's not about skin color. Okay. Although I will highlight it sometimes. I'll say, dark skinned Bantu or something, because with them, you have to counter argue them, because their whole thing is, oh, you weak and light skin and all blah, blah, blah. And they want to try to make it seem like you have to be dark skinned to only be black. And I accept that. I'm cool with that. And that's how you guys want to make it. You guys want to make that be known. Okay, well, then I'm going to build my own shit over here. But then they still want to come crawling over here and pull us back over. That's where it gets weak and pathetic. It's like, bro, you already let me know how you feel. I'm cool with that. I'm doing my own thing. So don't come over here and pretend like everybody's mixed and we're all the same now. No, no, no. You can, do the dark skinned Bantu stuff over there, if you feel that way. I'm talking about those who feel that way. I'm not talking about the civilized, decent gentlemen who want to collaborate or have a friendly gentleman conversation. I'm not talking about decent people. I don't care what skin color or what color t-shirt you have on. I'm just saying that the common, language that we see out here, especially specifically in African American circles, like with the hip hop stuff, with the Drake. I'm talking through that lens, because it's people jump on the internet and just talk all this shit about light-skinned men, and you got black men, dark-skinned black men that are bold, and they got balls out here to talk this shit about light-skinned men. And then it's like, okay, well, you think we're all going to sit back and smile and just, I'm not. I'll be the bad guy. Just, you're not fucking punking me. Let you know that. So let me check out some key points of this article here, and then keep it pushing. Okay. I want to start from here. I think you guys can see that. I can also zoom it in a little bit just to make it easier on the eyes for you guys. I think this should be sufficient enough. So let's check this out. Says, for the other brown babies, the picture is more varied, says Dr. Chamian Caballero, co-founder of the Mixed Museum, a digital archive of Britain's history of racial mixing. So they actually have, a mixed museum, digital archive, digital museum. Very progressive. They got a lot more than what we have some stuff over here, but I like the fact that they have that formatted. Let me continue. Puts, they carry the double stigma of being mixed race and being born outside marriage, and they were treated as a problem by the authorities. No one knew what to do with them. Talking about the mulatto children, she says most of them found themselves the only person of color in very white rural areas where they stood out, experienced discrimination, and had no connection to black communities. Those that did gravitate to black communities in cities like London, Liverpool, or Bristol also often faced discrimination for not being quote unquote black enough. You see, those that did gravitate to black communities in cities like London, Liverpool, Bristol, they faced discrimination for not being black enough. It's funny because like when you look at these articles or news stories, etc., like they'll always highlight like if there's white racism or if the whites discriminated or excluded you. But they're not really the language in an article. They're not highlighting the fact that there was racism towards these mulattoes from the black communities there in England because they weren't quote unquote black enough. Doesn't that sound familiar, guys? I mean, you guys hear that a lot, right? So just want to note that there. And then they put it in bold right here. Most of them were the only person of color in a very white areas, or if they moved to urban black communities, they were not black enough, right? That's that stigma that often it's unique for us. Mulattoes understand. That's why we have this community here. You guys understand. It's uniquely us. We get it. We see this, we hear these stories, we're able to connect with it because it makes sense. We've all have experienced this in some way or another, whether in the UK, whether you're in any area in the United States, places in Canada as well. It happens across the globe, depending on your area. Let me see where else we got here. I just wanted to kind of skip through some of this stuff. Like I said, I don't want to bore you guys. I'll share it with you. And I'm not saying this is a boring article. It's just I don't want to be up here all night reading this because I gotta wake up and get to work. But I wanted to highlight the orphanage here and saw some here. Yeah. Okay. So the Mixed Museum is another resource. The threads of a lost history of being tied back together. Edwards and Evans recently returned to Hollincote House to record a podcast for the National Trust, which owns and manages the Hollincote. I apologize for my pronunciation of this, estate, which is where the first mulatto orphanage in the UK was, along with Bland and the historian David Alasoga. So I always get a bit emotional, says Edwards, because the memories are so strong and they were such beautiful times. Evans agrees it was like going home because although that I've lived in arbitrarily, all these years, I have never felt as if it was my home. I always felt like the odd person out. So I wasn't sure where I was getting at with that. I think there was another little paragraph or segment I wanted to highlight, but if not, that's okay. Um, yeah, what I'll do is I have the museum here. I'm gonna share and just kind of just gloss over their website, so you guys can check it out. And like I said, again, I'm gonna share all this stuff with you guys. I have the article in the chat. I think one of the links I shared, it's not clickable. It's not a hyperlink. So I'll just get rid of that one right now. But I'll have it in the description box and make sure that you guys can click it and have access to it. So this is a Mixed Museum, their website. And I listened to some of this article earlier. You can just click the play button. Okay.
Panel 5. Mixed race children given up.
Yeah. And you can, play it. You guys can do that. Listen to it, the stories, and it's all written here as well. But this is the museum here. And so it's pronounced right here, Honeycoat. I was, tripping trying to pronounce it the way it's spelled, but it has right here pronounced Honeycoat. So they know that word's common for people to mispronounce it. Was a nursery, was a National Trust building in 1943, right? Interesting. Yeah. And this was used to house mixed race GI babies, not black babies of African Americans. It was to house mixed race babies. The distinction is important, guys. I'm going to always drill that in and highlight it when I see news articles or videos or people acknowledging that, mulattoes exist and have existed for centuries. Some people would argue, thousands of years. Other people get into that. I'm just looking at the evidence that's right in front of me. The fact is, we've existed for a long time. We're not going to go anywhere. We're going to continue to exist. So we have to embrace that and advocate for ourselves. And by looking at this data, this information, this history is incredibly important for us. This will empower us in this type of advocacy. Yeah. So they had this Honeycoat house for children who are orphans in the UK. And here's some images here. Okay, let's see. At least a third of the mothers were already married, and even if they were single, the stigma of having an illegitimate mixed race child was hard for them to live with, given the prejudice and racism of the time. So this was like a place where they could put their children up for adoption. It's kind of tragic, but it happens a lot, and it does happen in the United States as well. But I haven't heard of any, orphanage that was specifically dedicated to us. But then again, there's a different time. This is in the 1940s, post World War II. So like 75 years ago. So you have to take that into consideration. Laws, culture, demographics, everything was much different. So maybe this was more so needed then. I'm still kind of needed now. We just need more advocacy and representation. The representation is the key thing, is what I'm seeing we need now for establish that. They have a YouTube channel as well, Mixed Museum. So they have some videos here, and yeah, they look at all the documentation, how formal it is, and just this is the history. This is also part of your history. More specifically, this is the history of the mulattoes in the UK. This is more so their history. But I'm just sharing it with you guys because I think this is great material. This is stuff that a lot of us we don't know about. And this is advocacy work. It's very admirable as well because it's advocacy work. They saw a problem, they're finding solutions, and they're documenting it. And now we can all learn from it. So I basically just wanted to share that, and I wanted to make the connection and to create some type of balance as far as the arguments where we see with like the white British soldiers who are going into Kenya, okay, and having illegitimate, kids and abandoning the kids, no responsibility. But then we also see that similar things did happen in the UK post World War II when the African American soldiers not only did they do that in the UK, but they did that in Germany and also in France. Okay, so they did that in a lot of other places too. But I do see like when the UK, where like I said, they had that orphanage, try to find solutions, and even today, in the UK, they have a lot of mulattoes over there, and they do have representation. They have their celebrity class and so to speak, whatnot. They have the prime minister of Wales, right? In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister of Wales is mulatto. So they have high level political leaders and social media personalities and all this stuff, right? So they have a lot of representation. So that's good. And but we see in Kenya, it's kind of a lot of the mulattoes there are kind of isolated. I feel like, especially looking at those the videos that I just reviewed, where one guy said he suffered identity issues and resorted to alcoholism. It's pretty tragic, It's pretty tragic in that situation. So I feel like it's because of that isolation. They don't really have that much of a social network to be able to connect with people when they're often stigmatized and ostracized in that society. It can be pretty damaging. So I'm just doing my part, using my voice to spread awareness, and I hope you guys would do the same as well. Let me check out some comments. There have been way more white dad biracials and white mom biracials in world history. Exactly. Yeah, especially Africa is a testament to that. Africa is one of the main testaments to that. And even in the United States as well, prior to, the Civil War era, right? Prior to Civil War, that's basically how all, you know, in most all cases, biracials were created. Black men are the only men that create men they hate. Exactly. And there was I think it was Patrick C, who's a YouTuber here who has dope content. I mean, I really appreciate his content, and I like the fact that he's speaking up about these issues. And yeah, because we see that like they're the only race of men, of males, not men, but males who I see that create men they hate in that regard. Do white males do it too? Sure. Yeah, they do. But it's very bizarre. Yeah, you're right. Like, how do you go out of your way? You don't like light skinned guys, but you get a light skinned woman or a Mexican woman or a white girl. And see, they're praying that they have a mixed daughter. They don't, it works the other way around too. When black women want a light skinned kid, they want a light skinned boy. They're hoping that they have a boy, not a girl. I'm not saying all guys. I said I'll do better at overgeneralizing so I don't hurt your little feelings. But in many cases, that's what I see. That we see that with the males. Yeah, they want to create men that they hate, but I think most of the time they don't. They're hoping that they have daughters. Okay, very sick pathology. But then again, am I going to blame the guys? I mean, I can laugh at them and critique them, but it's ultimately the women who busted open, spread their legs for them. And you're a baby mama now. If you're a married woman, I can't say shit. I'm not disrespecting women who have a ring on their finger and a husband and a family, they're married. Okay. I'm talking about these baby mamas. And you have baby mama losers who pretend to be married. They jump on social media with their little fake ass persona, pretending to be married, lying to the public. And they're so easy to spot. Okay. Because married women don't call other women pick me's. or pick Mishas. Oh, you're male identified. You're with all the males. Like, married women don't say that. So that's a dead giveaway. You're talking to some baby mama loser who's disgruntled, you know? So I'm not talking about women who are married and have families. I'm talking about the baby mama losers. Like, you know, you are the blame. You busted open for that caliber of individual. And like I said, I will clown you. I will, and I will enjoy it. You put, and the women they hate, truly and odd people. Interesting. You put a little off topic, but famous IQ study. I don't know if I pronounce it. I'm just tired right now. Firth study performed on mixed African American German war babies found that their IQ was equal to that of the white American German war babies. I've heard something about that, but I haven't seen enough data to kind of comment on it. But it sounds pretty interesting. I got to look into that. A lot of them don't actually like the light skinned women they get. They're jealous. Yeah. Conquer, then move on. Yeah. It's not even conquering because they don't even have control. They're bastardizing because they're not conquering. There's no control. Like we don't they have a lot of false bravado because they'll jump into your space acting like they can run shit, acting like they're in control or some. Then they'll just go to their white massa and cry and complain, report your video, report your comment. You know the drill. Okay, they're gonna go to their massa and cry and complain. So like they're not even conquering, like they're conquered themselves serving another group doing their bidding. They just want a better deal. And they get jealous when you're more preferred in society. Well, you always will be, even in Africa. You're more preferred than them, you know? And you have some of those sad cases, you know, tragic where the guy where he's basically reverting to alcoholism and all the other stuff, but you know, Latin America, isn't that what they cry? The whole colorism argument is because they want to claim mulattoes to be a part of their group. You know, they want to use the one drop rule to pretend like they got all these numbers, they're claiming all these mulattoes. That whole colorism and featureism and texturism, all that shit would go away if they stopped weaponizing the one drop rule against mulattoes, right? You want to claim mulattoes as black, but you want to cry when they get preferential treatment over you. Well, we're not the same people. Okay. Solution, problem solved. All right, guys. I think I blabbed my mouth enough. I appreciate you guys being here. Hit the like button, share the stream, post some comments. If you guys want me to cover anything, you guys can always reach me. I got an email address right here. Feel free to email me if you want to run by anything through me or whatnot or connect. I'll be happy to hear from you and you can share some of the stuff like Gentleman Chief Inspector. You talked about that study, that IQ study. You can go ahead and share that with me if you don't mind. I'll check it out. And yeah, let's keep the conversation going. All right. Good night, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.